Welcome back to Legends Live, as presented by the National Basketball Retired Players Association, the home of all our NBA and WNBA legends. I'd like to remind viewers you can submit questions during the show that we will answer before we wrap up. And without any further ado, I'd like to welcome today's guest. We have former UCLA Bruin, we have former Milwaukee Buck, and current Emmy Award winning analyst for those same Milwaukee Bucks. We've got Marques Johnson in the house. Marques, thank you for joining us, man.
Hey, it's my pleasure, man. Good to be with you.
Of course. First, I'll say happy belated birthday. I feel like we've seen from your conversation this week with the Undefeated to the Today Show to ESPN. We've seen the birthday dunk. I think Bridget and Julio backstage have got that queued up for anybody who hasn't seen it. See if we can take a look at that.
Here we go. 65 years old.
There we go.
I'm still dunking.
Still got it.
Can I have my ball back and put your mask back on?
She's the real star. My daughter Shiloh, she's the real star. I do that just to get her some FaceTime.
Yeah, so it was all her idea.
No. I mean, it started. Well, actually, I've been doing it since the early '90s when I was in my early 40s.
Mm-hmm.
Then about 10 years ago, when I was 55, Blake Griffin had jumped over the Kia.
Mm-hmm.
And so my son Josiah, who's heavily involved in media and social media and the whole deal, NBA Twitter loves him. But he had the idea of doing a nice video shoot, going to the health club, and instead of jumping over a real car, jump over a couple of Hot Wheels, little small cars.
Okay.
And so we pulled that off. It got a lot of great feedback. And then so every year we come up with a different theme, and he would shoot it on around my birthday. But for me, the real deal, Trill, is that, and I shared this with Mark Spears from Undefeated, that
mm-hmm.
20 years ago, I didn't know if I'd be here the way I was living, the things I was doing, substance abuse, smoking a pack and a half of cigarettes a day,
mm-hmm.
drinking, a fifth of hard alcohol every other day, sometimes a day, and just living in a non-productive way, being in a dark space and just not really knowing what was going to happen with my life in my mid 40s, just going through a divorce, that whole midlife crisis type period.
Mm-hmm.
And God's grace shined on me. I was able to turn it around, get sober almost 19 years ago. And so the dunk for me just represents kind of this second lifestyle in one lifetime that I'm fortunate enough to live. And so that's kind of where it is. That's why I do it. It's been a reminder for me to keep myself fit, stay in shape. I work out 6 days a week. And I take a product called Stemrogen right here.
Okay. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, it's just a bunch of natural herbs, all the stuff my mama used to try and get me to take for forever. Sea buckthorn and aloe vera and black pepper extract and all these great herbs that really do a great job of cutting down inflammation for me, cutting down my recovery time when I work out. And so I've been taking that for a few months now, and it really works. And so that and other things just kind of is a reminder with the dunk for me to show people my age, men my age, women my age, that you can still be active, you can still have meaningful participation in your kids' life, your grandkids' life, and you can keep yourself in good shape. There's no reason not to. And so the dunk kind of reminds me to stay on it, because my birthday's coming up. So I stay on it 12 months. I started this morning back in the gym doing my thing. And whether or not I can dunk at 66, who knows? But at least, the byproduct is that I'll be in great shape, whether I can dunk or not, in another few months.
Definitely. I do have to ask, how many outtakes were there? Now, be honest with us. Did you have any had to cut the tape or get any camera trickery in there?
No. What happens is that I don't dunk at all for a year. I'm not 65. I'm not out there trying to, I ain't playing the ball.
You weren't gonna take it through your legs or nothing?
No, I'll play one-on-one with my daughter. She's 11, so I can beat her. So I'll play with her sometimes. I'll play with her, but I don't do any dunking at all. So the day of the dunk, I really don't know whether or not I can pull it off. And so when we shot this actually Sunday. My birthday was Monday. We shot it on the 7th, Super Bowl Sunday, in the morning. And before Josiah got to my house, in the backyard. You know, I tried to do it a couple of times and I wasn't even close. And I'm just like, I wanted to call Joe, be like, man, I can't do this. I'm 65, my legs, you know, I got a little bit of sciatica flare. My legs, you know, it's just not gonna work. But the more I did it, the looser I got. By the time he got there, and we did it the first 2 or 3 times. First time the ball slipped out of my hands. I was up there, I had all this over the rim, but the ball slipped out of my hands. And
you jumped too high.
Ball. It was my daughter. It's my daughter's ball. It's my daughter's ball. It's an inch small. It's kind of the whole Tom Brady, you know, inflated.
Yeah.
But after that, after I got loose and warm, I was able to do it, pull it off. He's like, "Got one more in you?" He's good for that, Josiah. You got one more in you? I was like, "Yeah, man. I guess you know, you got one more in you." And so we wound up doing about seven different takes until we till we get the mask would come down sometimes, or my daughter didn't have the mask on, you know. So, but we finally got it right, and it's done really well on social media. It got like 5 million whatever original impressions or whatever it is. I don't know what the numbers represent, but it's doing pretty well.
Yeah, is that you mentioned you don't know, you don't really practice it, so it's no, you don't have nothing in mind for like 66, 67. You just kind of wing it year by year.
Straight wing, and we try and do a theme. So like last year during the dunk contest, Aaron Gordon jumped over Taco Falls, so I dunked over 2 tacos, real tacos. This year, with the All-Star game being kind of up in the air as far as LeBron and some of these other guys are talking about, I put, you know, at the very last minute, I was like, what am I going to wear? I'm trying to figure out what kind of T-shirt or whatever, and I saw this old All-Star jersey I had hanging up in the closet, and I put that bad boy on and like to suffocate myself, but but that became like the theme, like LeBron, I got you. You know, I know you don't have the energy for it, but you know, I got the energy, and because I'm a big LeBron fan, and so that became kind of the theme for this year. So it's all good, man. Just having fun, having a good time, enjoying life. So.
Now, you mentioned the All-Star games coming up. What do you make of them? It sounds like they're going to do the dunk contest. I'm not sure if they're going to do the full events. Some of the players have pushed back on it. What do you make of it? Like, as a current analyst, former player, what do you say about it?
Well, you know, I understand from the player's perspective, just some of the concerns health-wise with COVID and everything going on. But my bottom line is this. I mean, do you feel like Adam Silver, the commissioner, has your best interest at heart or not? I think he has shown through his tenure with the swift handling of the Donald Sterling situation, the way the bubble situation kind of played out, things that are going on now. I think he has shown that he has got the players' health as a primary concern. Now, it's still a business. You still want to make your money. And so just from a standpoint, I think the players should give him the benefit of the doubt and support what he's trying to do. And for LeBron and some guys, Giannis, Kawhi, other guys that are making the big money, you know, they can go without. There's other guys at the other end of the pay scale that this money will benefit in terms of them continuing to get consistent checks, that sort of thing. So I think the players should play. It's one day. They're scaling it back, and it means something to the league. And I think the players should respect that and show up and play, and then get on about their business.
Now, as I mentioned, you're still an analyst for the Bucks. So I'm interested. How do you prepare how do you get prepared for a game? What's that process look like?
Well, you know, it's funny because I get to watch basketball like 24/7, and so my wife will have the honey-do list. I need you to do this. I gotta work. I'm working.
Yeah, I got to prep.
But she's like, "You're watching a basketball game." Well, that's what I do.
That's my work.
That's my work. I watch basketball games. But no, I mean, I watch a lot of basketball. I read everything I can get my hands on, from local writers to The Athletic and to The Undefeated and all these great national writers. And I love the game, man. So it's a part of me. It's a big part of me. My sons all played on different levels. Josiah and Chris, my 2 little boys at UCLA. The other boys, some Division II. I got a son now at a mid-major school down in Huntsville, Texas, Sam Houston State. They're in the top 25 for mid-major schools this season with the great coach Jason Hooten down there, and so I'm always kind of plugged into what's going on because of that, and it's easy to follow it because I love it, and you know, I'm plugged into different websites and different synergy and different things that give me great access to game footage, and so I can watch it for days on end. And so it's not a challenge whatsoever. So I go in probably over prepared. I played for a coach at UCLA John Wood used to say, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. And so I probably overdo it, but I'd rather overdo it than not be as prepared as I need for a broadcast.
Definitely. So what do you make of the Bucs so far this year? Like, they got off to a little bit of a slow start. They lost a tough one last night, but they've been warming up lately. So what do you think has been the difference between them getting back in that? I think they're the number 2 seed now.
Yeah, well, some things are going on. We've had a tremendous amount of personnel change from last year. I think we've got the top 5 in terms of the amount of minutes that we lost from last year to this year. So that was going to take some time. At the start of the season, I said that after 20 games, that if we could be 12-8, I think we would be happy with that. And we were exactly 12-8 after 20 games. Now, we played well after that 5-game win streak. I think the guys are just starting to get acclimated to what Coach Budenholzer is trying to do. He's changed up our offensive structure, so we don't run this 5 out that we did the last 2 years that teams were able to exploit in terms of stopping Giannis. Now he's placed an offensive player down in that dunker area under the basket. Giannis complained about it at first, and here's my point. Giannis complained about that at first because it was clogging things up a little bit for him. Not as much.
Yeah, another body in the paint. Yeah.
Yeah, but it made him have to think the game, become more cerebral as a basketball player. And I talked about LeBron, how much I love his game, and the reason I love LeBron is because he manages the game from that forward position as well as anybody in the league. He's actually a point guard right now. The way he plays. Giannis is starting to learn how to manage the game a little bit more effectively. The games that Giannis has scored 30 or more, we've been, for the most part, unsuccessful. He had 47 or whatever last night, and we lose, albeit by 1 point. When he has scored in the mid-20s, he's got 10 assists. He's got his usual 14 to 15 rebounds.
Yeah.
We're much better off with him with his usage rate, to me, not being tops in the league, still being top 5, but using Chris Middleton as a facilitator, using Drew Holiday as a facilitator. And so the product is still coming together. Phoenix was able to exploit some things against us last night. But for the most part, I think we're all happy with the direction that it's going, especially Bobby Portis, Brent Forbes is shooting the ball out of his mind over the last few games. And we're going to get better and better. And we're not going to peak. Last year, after 24 games, we were 21-3. This year, we're 16-8, 16-9 now after the loss last night. So it's all good. It's a process. And I like where we are right now. I feel better about this 16-9 right now than I did about the 21-3 last year because we were doing the same things that were unsuccessful in the playoffs. And it kind of borne itself out down in the bubble against Miami.
Now, you talked about some of the personnel changes. I guess we're about a third of the way into the season. What do you think of Drew Holiday?
Love him. He was a guy that I saw play in high school a lot. Saw him at UCLA. I was working for the Pac-10 or 12, whatever it was at that time. But he was just at UCLA for a year. And we all thought it was a mistake that, he averaged 8 points a game as a freshman. He went pro. It was like, probably should have stayed around another couple of years. Well, a couple of years from that point, he was like AllStar in Philadelphia. And so his size, his ability to dictate the game defensively at the point of attack, and still score 20 a game. And and I think with him, I really believe he needs to lead us in assists. You got Chris Middleton, and Giannis all around 6 assists a game. I think Drew could even take more of a role in terms of being the primary ball handler. But there's nothing to not like about him in terms of being one of the best, if not the best, two-way guard in the league right now, offensively and defensively.
You mentioned Giannis taking a few less shots. He's playing a little bit more this year. What do you think he's going to have to do to sustain that and have that kind of success in the postseason? You mentioned last couple of years went out a little earlier than they would have hoped to. So what do you think he's going to have to do for that to carry over?
Well, it's just reading and reading and reacting to different situations because he's got to see a wall. Regular season, he can get to the rim, dunk, lead the league in transition points and points in the paint. But come the postseason, the further along in the postseason you go, the better the defenses are. So Miami last year, Toronto 2 years ago, these coaches, they're not going to let him get to the basket like that with impunity. So he's going to have to think the game, be more of a facilitator, understand when he's got 3 guys looking at him, there's somebody else is open that he's got to get the basketball to in the shot pocket right away. And he's learning that. He's learning that on the job right now, which is a positive sign. And for me, he's never going to be, I don't think, a great three-point shooter. His free throw shooting is up and down. If he can continue to develop that mid-range 15 to 17-foot jumper at the elbows, because guys are so afraid of him getting to the basket, they give him a 3 or 4 or 5 foot cushion defensively.
Right.
Starts knocking down that mid-range jump shot, and he's like around 35% on short mid-range shots. If he gets that up to around 45%, it's going to really make him even more of an effective offensive player than what he is today. And he's still one of the best in the league in terms of putting points on the board.
Oh, absolutely. So who do you think is probably the biggest threat, or I guess biggest threats for the Bucks? Like the Philadelphia 76ers, I think they're still the 1 seed.
Well, I mean,
the Nets,
I mean, you've got KD, Kyrie, and James on one squad. It's just going to be hell to deal with. Now, defensively on the interior, DeAndre Jordan. I mean, losing Jarrett Allen is a huge.
Yeah, that was tough. Yep.
In their interior defense, but they got so much firepower at the offensive end. But outside of them, I think Doc Rivers. I think he and Joel Embiid have really been a nice combination in Philly. Between that and Embiid getting himself into much better condition. The additions of Seth Curry, the additions of Danny Green has really opened things up. Ben Simmons, still can get the job done, though, even though he's not an offensive threat. So Philadelphia, I think, outside of Brooklyn, will be the next most dynamic team that you have to worry about. But I don't count Boston. I love Brad Stevens and Jalen and what they do back there, and Tatum, how he plays, and Kemba Walker, the three of them together. So, but I think it's Brooklyn, and then probably Philadelphia would be the two teams I'd be most concerned with if I'm Milwaukee right now.
What about out west? Is it still Lakers conference to lose? Like, say the Bucks make it through the Eastern Conference, who do you think would probably give them the most trouble? Like you got Lakers, Clippers, Jazz are playing really well.
Well, the Clippers offensively are a juggernaut right now, but to me, it's all about defense. The Lakers are the number one defensive team in the league right now, and that kind of goes unspoken. When you think of LeBron and Anthony Davis and how they play, but their defense has been so consistent. So, come playoff time, that to me is a big deal. Being able to get the stops when you need the stops, and then you've got LeBron James, a guy that again can manage a basketball game. Even 36 years old, better than anybody in the league right now. And so with him, with the ball in his hands the way it is, and then with Anthony Davis being a top 3 or 4 guy in the league also, the two of them together still, to me, are the team and the tandem that you've got to go through if you're even thinking about a championship.
Now, switching gears a little bit, I mentioned you're 2-time Emmy Award winner. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Where do you keep the awards at? Where do you keep the
I got them right on the trophy shelf. I got my John Wooden Award. I got my Emmy. I got I think a UCLA Hall of Fame plaque. I got the Comeback Player of the Year award from the last one given in the NBA in 1986, and then I got my other Emmy kind of
bookend
all the other awards. So I like to say I'm the only person with a John Wooden Award, with an Emmy, and with an NBA Comeback Player of the Year award. That's
rare.
That nobody else can claim. So, yeah.
Now, you had a legendary role in White Men Can't Jump as Raymond. How did that come about?
Well, a good buddy of mine, we were working on a film for the American Film Institute, a guy by the name of Andrew Wagner. And so we were, we're doing it for free. Myself and Silk Cozart and Nigel McGill, all these great ball player actors in Los Angeles. And so Silk Cozart, a good buddy of mine, who's got an Emmy award-winning or an award-winning documentary on basketball himself, but he knew that Ron Shelton, the writer and director of White Men Can't Jump, was looking for someone to play the role of Raymond Dickens. And Raymond Dickens is based on this character in the NBA that you heard about when you first got into the league in the 70s, a guy by the name of Reggie Harding out of Detroit. Went straight from high school to the Pistons, but got suspended. I'm actually working on a story about. I've interviewed some, Dave Bing and Fred Lewis of the ABA, some great ball players. But anyway, so Reggie Harding was the guy that went into a liquor store in his neighborhood in Detroit with a ski mask on and a gun, and told the guy to give him his money. And the guy was like, Reggie, I know that's you, man. Put that gun down. And Reggie allegedly said, this ain't me.
Right.
And so, you know, that's the mythology, the folklore, whatever that you hear when you first came in the league. So I was familiar with that story, auditioned for the role. When I went in for the audition, I read with Wesley Snipes, and I knew that there was a part of the scene where the character Raymond had to pull out a straight razor. My dad was a barber, so I went into his barber box and I got a real straight razor. And so
you had the real props.
Real straight razor, and I worked on kind of opening it up with one hand. I saw it in this black film. This guy did it. It was so cool. So when it came time for me to pull the razor, I reached in my pocket, pulled out the razor, snapped it with one hand, chased Wesley Snipes around the audition room. And so they loved it. But afterwards, they told me, leave that razor at home. They got a prop razor I could use. I might hurt somebody.
Yeah.
Probably myself. But it turned out to be a great experience, and something that people still kind of know me for, especially the younger generation, more than what I did as a basketball player.
Yeah, I didn't know that was based off a real player. I was going to ask you how much of that was like script versus improvised, because you grew up in Crenshaw, yeah? Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, you know, you grew up on the playgrounds of Los Angeles. You know, you're around guys like that all the time. Now that wasn't kind of my persona, but I've been around guys like that. But that's based on a real character. Again, Reggie Harding, and I just completed a script about his life called This Ain't Me. Real tragic life, involved in drugs. He got shot and killed at 30 years old on the street corner of Detroit. Couldn't get away from the streets.
Yeah.
He was those dudes. But talking to Dave Bing, I mean, Reggie was a real character. He carried guns in the locker room, wasn't getting the playing time that he wanted with one team. And it was the Pistons, and they were in a team meeting, and all of a sudden his pistol dropped to the floor, and he looked up at the coach and said, I better get in the game tonight. Coach said, okay, all right, yeah, I got you.
I think we can find some minutes for you.
Yeah, we got some minutes for you. But yeah, so that's what that character was based on, and but it was just a great experience working on that film with Ron Shelton, Woody Harrelson, Wesley Snipes, and the whole crew.
Now, you mentioned you're doing some writing. Now, I know you did some more in front of the screen, like Blue Chips, Forget Paris, a couple more. So are you looking to do more, in front of the screen, or just stick to writing, or just kind of play it by ear?
Look, man, I'm into telling stories that unique stories that people aren't familiar with. I got a writing partner by the name of Todd Wasserman, young guy in his 40s, but he had this great idea, and we wrote this script that's actually with CAA, Creative Artists in Los Angeles, one of the biggest talent agencies around. But it's called Burning for Justice. It's about integrating the LA Fire Department in the mid-50s. This group of black men called the Stentorians were the ones that helped integrate the fire department, these firemen, and they had to go through all kinds of racism and abuses and the whole deal. And we were able to sit down with, I think 4, maybe 5 of them were still living over the last 10 years we've been working on it. Sit down and interview these 84, 85, 90-year-old Reggie Ballard and Arnett Hartsfield, all these historic figures about what they had to go through. So I've got that. Wrote another story about this horseman by the name of Tom Bass, who grew up as a slave right at the end of slavery in the mid 1865 or so. He was 7 years old when slavery ended. But he turned out to be the most renowned horse trainer in the world. Trained horses for everybody from Will Rogers to presidents and kings and queens and whatnot that nobody knows about. So those are the stories that I love to write about and kind of get out there and educate our young people about the high achievers that we've had in our race that nobody talks about. Because there's so many of them, so many of these untold stories that people don't know about. And that's my kind of mission, is to get out there and make sure that people understand what kind of a rich history that we have as African Americans.
Definitely. I'll jump to a couple questions from our viewers in a minute, but I did want to ask one thing. You mentioned playing for legendary coach John Wooden. What's one thing that he told you that just always stuck with you?
Well, the preparation was probably the main thing. But Coach Wooden, he always said that he would know how effective of a job he had done as a coach in terms of getting to us as young men 15, 20, 30 years after we graduated college. And so for me, it's a bit of a knucklehead. It took a while for it to sink in. But for me, the things that he taught me is pyramid of success, just about putting in the work, putting in the effort, putting in the preparation, making sure that you're as prepared and ready for whatever it is you're trying to accomplish as anybody. That was the key. Our practices were set up so that every minute was accounted for. So from 3:30 to 3:35, we're doing one drill. From 3:36 to 3:40, everything was accounted for.
No standing around.
No standing around. But the thing is that he felt like the games would become easy because practices were so regimented and so competitive, but yet fun, that the games would be kind of a sense of relief for us to get out there and just kind of let all the stuff that he taught us kind of manifest itself. So he was brilliant in the way he approached the game. He also talked about not treating all his players the same because they're not the same. So some guys he'd give a little bit more latitude to. Some guys, he'd have a tighter rein on. I can remember my sophomore year when I had contracted hepatitis. I was out for 2 months. I was weak. I was on a minutes restriction. I was frustrated. I worked like crazy after my freshman season. Wayne Embry called me the best forward in America, college or pro. When I was 19 years old, he saw me play out at UCLA, but I got sick. And so I couldn't play the whole game, was in and out of the lineup. And so in one practice, I came down and I dunked on our 7'2" center, Ralph Drollinger. Coach Wooden didn't say anything. A couple of possessions later, this white guy on our team, Gavin Smith, was murdered a couple of years ago. But anyway, he came down athletic. He dunked on Ralph Drollinger. Coach Wooden stopped practice and said, "Gavin, you're just a show off. You this, your daddy this." So years later, I asked Coach Wooden about that. So why did you get on Gavin for dunking when you couldn't dunk? And you couldn't dunk. The dunk was outlawed. Gavin for dunking, and you didn't get on me. And Coach said, "Look, I knew that you were frustrated and you were just kind of venting some frustration. Gavin was trying to show off, and I don't like show offs, And so it just valuable lessons about how you have to kind of assess each and every situation, each and every individual, and kind of approach them accordingly."
Yeah. Okay, so what's just talked about your 65th birthday. What's something that you at 65 would tell yourself at 17, 18 years old?
That it's gonna be okay. That you don't have to be a nervous wreck and bite your nails and clap your legs and just have all this anxiety and energy about what the future is gonna hold. And I'm a perfectionist, man, and that's one of the things that drove me. I got this obsessive personality. The glass is always half empty. If I go to the restaurant and order chicken, I should have ordered steak. If I ordered the steak, I should have ordered the chicken. I'm never, I'm just never
in your own head,
my own skin and where I am. I want to be somewhere else. Relax, brother. It's gonna be okay. Things are gonna turn out all right. Trust God. Treat people right. It's gonna be okay.
See, I think we'll jump to a couple of viewer questions here. We won't keep you too long. Let's see what we got. First one from Alvin Seitz. Alvin says, "I just need to know, did he ad-lib in White Man Can't Jump?"
Yeah, Ron Shelton wrote most of the dialogue. Now, the liquor store scene, when I went into the Mike Tyson voice, yeah, this ain't me. That was all me. That was all I brought to the table, and they loved it. I didn't know how they would react to that, but that was something that I kind of brought to the table. But yeah, I mean, a lot of it was ad lib. A lot of it was just jumping into the character. I've studied acting. What people don't know about me, I mean, I from high school to middle school, I was Little Abner in the play Little Abner. I was Conrad Birdie in the play Bye Bye Birdie. I've been acting theatrically since I was 11, 12, 13 years old, and that's kind of a passion for me. And so I studied with a great teacher by the name of Rick Edelstein in Los Angeles, who was Barbara Streisand's personal acting coach, and Vanessa Williams. A whole bunch of really accomplished actors have gone through and worked with this guy. And so, again, preparation, just being prepared and ready for anything. Because when you're in a scene with Wesley Snipes, you got to be ready for this.
You got to bring your A game.
It hit every direction you can imagine, and that's what makes it fun.
Yeah. Let's see. Next question we've got here is from P. Boogity. P. Boogity says, "How did you feel about your son being on Baldwin Hills?"
Yeah, my son Mariah was a star on Baldwin Hills for 4 or 5 years the show ran. I was excited for him. The one thing that we shot a scene in the backyard, and so the director of the scene was like, "So Mariah's going to tell you that that he doesn't want to go to UCLA. He wants to go to another school, and want you to react to that." So Mariah told me in the backyard, this is reality, you know, scripted reality.
Right.
Dad, I go to UCLA. I'm like, hey man, do your thing. Wherever you want to go, I
Right.
support you. The director's like, cut. We
Yeah,
need you to
that's not good TV. Yeah.
we need you to be more disappointed.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, but I'm not. He said, well, can you just fake it for us? I was like, yeah, okay. So I gave him a little bit more disappointment. So just understand that the reality is kind of a misnomer in reality show. A lot of it kind of mapped out and planned out. But Mariah had a great time, and he was actually on a teen award show with Usain Bolt, and he got a bigger ovation and more adulation than Usain Bolt, and that's kind of his claim. Dad, they were more hyped for me.
Yeah, they love me.
Bolt. I was like, hey, Baldwin Hills, man, that's the power of TV, brother. But he's doing great. Mariah, and speaking of which, just to let you guys know out there, Mariah picked up painting maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and now this dude is so accomplished as an artist, man. It's just unbelievable that he's got this talent. He did go to his Instagram, and he's got some of his artwork posted on Instagram. Mariah Johnson, look him up on Instagram. He's got he's got the artwork on there that'll just blow you away, especially in the context of him just picking it up like 3 years ago.
Wow. Yeah, that is something. People, study years, decades.
And he's a barber.
For that.
He's the only guy that cut my hair for years, like the last 4 or 5 years. He gave it up about a year ago. It just told me he was just tired of just being in such demand around Los Angeles. He needed he's an occupational therapist. He graduated with a master's degree from Tuskegee.
Okay.
Working in occupational therapy, works with a lot of older people, works with my mom, and in terms, she's 94, keeping her muscles tight and in shape and all that. But that's his main gig, and the artistic stuff, being an actor. He started in plays in LA, the acting gigs and all that. But he's just a really, really well-rounded Renaissance man that loves to travel all over Europe and all over the place. And he's just a sweetheart of a person, and I'm just so proud of him in terms of everything he's accomplished, as I am with all my sons. But we're just talking about Mariah now, so let me toot his horn a little bit.
Let's see. Next question we have is from Neil04. It said, what was your view on the team's boycott last August? Speaking of the Milwaukee Bucks boycott.
No, well, I was for it. We didn't find out until 5 minutes before tip-off. Our producer, Dan Keener, got in our ear and said, the Bucks aren't on the floor yet. It's the Magic are out there. It's 5 minutes before tip-off, and they're still in the locker room, I guess, debating whether or not they're going to play. And I told my broadcast partner, Jim Paschke, they're not playing. I mean, they're gonna boycott. So this thing happened in Kenosha, an hour away from Milwaukee. And my thing was, again, if not now, then when? If not you, then who? It's the Milwaukee Bucks. It's in your backyard. And if you feel strongly enough about the shooting of Jeff Blake, the way it happened,
Jacob Blake,
at the time, and you want to take a stand, then this is the time to do it. And so I was proud that they took that stance, and other leagues and other teams. I mean, whenever you get hockey, you shutting down, and you get the WNBA and all these other entities shutting down. It's a powerful statement.
Definitely. Let's see, I think we have one or two more questions. Colin says, Marcus, who's your favorite fellow on-air Bucks personality, and why is it Zora Stevenson?
Look, I love working with Zora, with Jim Paschke. I had a chance to work with Gus Johnson my first couple of years in Milwaukee. I've been blessed, man, to work with some of the best in the business. And we got a great organization from ownership on down, team president Peter Fagan. I mean, it's just, for me, it's an opportunity. When I played here in Milwaukee, Trill, back in the 70s and 80s, I wasn't thinking about giving back to the community. That was for Junior Bridgman and some of these other do-gooders. I'm from LA. I want to, I'm into. We had our first nightclub here at Park Avenue. It was kind of like the Milwaukee version of Studio 54 with the stuff. That's where I was hanging out. Right. But now I get a chance to come back at this stage of my life, man, and give back and do a lot of the stuff that I didn't do and probably should have done when I was younger, but just wasn't in that mindset. Now I'm in that mindset, and so it's for me, it's more than just being a basketball analyst. It's been a big part of this community. I support so many organizations, the Running Rebels Youth Organization, all kinds of different mentoring groups here in Milwaukee. And that's the part that I get most excited about, is being able to give back and to reach out to some of these young men in this community, underserved areas, African-American men and others. and make a positive impact along those lines.
Well, your work is definitely appreciated. We got one last question, something we ask all our legends here. We're getting together our second part of our Legends playlist. So what's something that you're listening to now? Either if you said you working out 5-6 times a week on the way to the gym, or what are you listening to while you're working out? Could be old, new. What's in your headphones?
Yeah, I mean, my favorite song right now is Rod Wave, Heart on Ice.
Okay.
When homeboy's in the cell, before I slapped it, then I told him I don't know how you get down, but be out the soldier. You know, I mean, he's on his mama Nana couch looking at the ceiling. You know, that song just really
that speaks to you, yeah.
And that's kind of like I can listen. You know, like I can listen to that over. It's on a loop on my player that I listen to when I work out. Rod Wave, man, is probably my joint right now. So then there's another rap song that I just heard that had mentioned Giannis's name in it. I gotta, you know, Young Thug or something. I gotta get into that a little bit more.
Okay.
Kind of what that's all about. But Rod Wave would be the guy. But I'm an old school guy. You know, I can go YouTube and listen to Earth, Wind and Fire and Al Green, Love and Happiness and Shaka Khan and Tina Marie. I mean, you know, that's
the legends.
But in terms of what's new kind of happening out there, Rod Wave is a guy that just kind of blows me away right now.
Okay, yeah, I can definitely say you're the first legend to put Rod Wave on your playlist. Definitely the first.
It's my fault. I wear my heart on my sleeve.
We had to get you on a remix of that.
Yeah. Come on, Rod. Hook a brother up, man. Come on.
All right, we won't take too much more of your time. Marques Johnson, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you anytime. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you, man. We'll talk to you soon. All right, that'll do it for this week's Legends Live. As you know, we have new episodes live every Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, on the NBA Alumni's Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I'd like to remind viewers you can watch replays of any episode at legendsofbasketball.com/legendslive. You can catch the audio replay to our conversations by searching for Legends Live, wherever you get your podcasts. I'd like to thank Marques Johnson for joining us. Give a big thanks to Bridget and Julio behind the scenes, and we'll see you next Thursday.